What's up, guys, and welcome to the second episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. Today, we have on one of the members of the charity organization, the Hog Farmers, and co-host of the Bleeding Burgundy podcast, Keith Gray. Hello and welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you asking me to be on the show. I can't wait to help keep supporting you through this process. I'm glad you started up your own podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been pretty fun doing this so far. All right,
Good.
so I just want to get right into some of the topics here. Our team's just been named to a completely new name from what it used to be, the Washington Commanders. What are your overall thoughts on the rebrand?
Yeah, as I would say, I'm kind of in that older generation. It's been a whirlwind, but I've had some time to get used to the fact that it's no longer Redskins. Then, of course, for 2 years, we fans, we had to get used to it being called Washington Football Team.
Yeah.
So now that we finally have a name and identity, I've had enough time to pretty much think over this whole process and understand kind of where we're at in today's society and where we're at as a fan base and where I think we need to be. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the rebrand. I'm okay with being called Commanders. I kind of prepared myself for that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can relate to the Commanders because my father was in the military for 20 years in the Army. So it's just strange, because we've been Redskins, the majority, of our lives. So to see this change and to call them something different, I think it's weird to all of us. And I don't think it matters what generation we're in at this point. So, but, like yourself, we're huge football fans. And at the end of the day, we pay attention to the game that's played on the field, not the political agenda that's going around. And I think that all we really want to do at this point is just have a good team and support that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a lot of people were saying, as long as we win, it doesn't really matter what the name is or what the logo is.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, everyone takes a look at it, and we're all being critical about this rebrand and the logo. Like right now, looking at your shirt, that W is 100% humongous. But listen, this is just the beginning, and I'm not saying your shirt's bad or anything. It's just, it's different is my point. Yeah. We're so used to seeing the other name and logo. Then we got used to seeing the Washington Football Team, the W logo and being called football team, to now having to look at an entirely different W. But I can tell why they came up with that W. It's a military stencil. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense. And we're not married to any of this. That's the thing. Like a lot of us old school, fans, we didn't want any. Actually, if you look at the Redskins history, they changed their logo quite a bit, through the years. And, we've had several different logos. So, this is just new to us. We're not used to looking at this. Give it a year or two, and if our team is at least reaching playoffs, we're going to do just the same thing we did when we were a Washington Football Team. We're going to look past this, and, everything is going to start warming up, to folks. And we just need that winning culture now at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree, where we win and it'll be fine. Do you think that if we weren't the Washington Football Team and we kind of just named ourselves before the season, would you have liked that? Or do you think it was good to go through a 2-year process of a temporary name and then change it again?
Well, I think we had to go through the 2-year process. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people don't pay attention to. One, they had to research the names, of the list that they had. I mean, they hired Code and Theory to come in and do research to make sure whatever name that it is that they choose is a safe name. Who's to say what it's going to be like, 50 to 80 years from now, what this world will be at. Maybe Commanders then, or some other, team name from another team is going to be deemed inappropriate for certain people, and they might have to make changes then too. But we can't really look into the future. We can only look to see where we're at now, and kind of just understand, where we're at. So they had to go through a lot of legal, trademarking situations. Design. They had to design uniforms. They had they had to change everything, and it was going to take time to do this. So, you don't just necessarily rebrand quick and throw something out there, because if we did, then we would be called the, Cleveland Guardians, because that's clearly what they did. And even though it's two different sports, when we're talking about branding, and rebranding, this is where we're at. So to me, I think 2 years was actually kind of quick, in the sense, because I think if they had more time, they could have thought out different things that they wanted to do with this branding here. But I think that it was imperative for this fan base that we had an identity, because being a season ticket holder last season, it was awkward. We'd score, no one's singing a fight song. Not that you have to at every game, because not every team's do. But there's no chant, there's no nothing. They did have some music playing that was relative to the DC culture or the DMV culture, but it wasn't hitting with the fan base, and it just didn't translate from what we had to, what they were doing. So now that we have an identity, we're in a unique situation, Mason. And it's interesting because obviously I wasn't around when Hell to the Redskins came out, so how did that tradition become about? You know what I mean? And so we're in a unique situation where we've got multiple levels of generations or age groups that are going to figure out more of an identity for this team. And I think that it's kind of cool because we're all going to be involved in this in the process. So I grew up into the HTTR, but I didn't know where it originated or came from. And I didn't really care. I never cared to research it. I never thought it was going to be gone. So, that's a positive that I think we fans can look at, is there's going to be some heavy involvement, and it's really going to be up to us on where we want to take this brand from there. They're going to put it in our hands to make decisions. I mean, they're already talking about, writing a fight song and getting the fans. They're already talking about mascots, something that they haven't done. Right. But the game day experience is what needs to improve. And it looks like they're trying to do that.
Yeah. And I personally have only been to one game, and you've definitely been to more. But the one game I did go to was the Chargers won their season opener of this year. And I mean, the place, it was the first game of the season, but it didn't really feel right. I don't really know what right is because I've only been to one, but it just, something seemed odd about it. And this is kind of what the name has been and what the season has gone through, and basically what the fans have gone through for the past few years.
Yeah, your vision and thought on that is 100% correct. It was odd. And you got to remember too, that was week 1. So there was a lot of excitement coming into this season too. So that's where you had the most of your home fans, was at that game. And yet it was still strange because the away side still had a lot of opposing team fans. And I will say that that people, that's going to happen though. I think that people there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yeah, of course you want your entire stadium to be packed out with, your own fans, and you don't want to hear the left side of the stadium, cheering for their team, and because it gets loud. But it's not uncommon for stadiums and games to be filled with fans. I mean, look at Las Vegas. I mean, there were a ton of football team fans that were there, and it's a mixed crowd. It's the same thing when you look at some of these playoff games, you're going to have mixed crowds. That's just the nature of this type of, game and business. But you're 100% correct. When it came to, when we score, it was awkward. We didn't really, and that's the way it was the year before. Now, I didn't go to all the games the year before, but it was just awkward. It was, you didn't really know what to do as a fan. It kind of just phased out. There was no, you watch these playoff games and you hear the fans. And the Bills, I mean, their stadium was unreal. Even when they did a kickoff, like they did that college cheering atmosphere. And that's something that I want to see come back to the Commanders now at this point, but it's going to take some time because we got to create a winning culture in order to do so.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now going back to the rebrand a little bit, the jerseys, there's been a lot of controversy about who likes what jerseys and what jerseys are good. What are your thoughts on all 3 of them?
So that's a good question. 100%. I want to start off with my first initial thought when I saw all 3 was I didn't understand why they weren't cohesive with each other. I didn't understand the white jersey, and I was pretty clear at my displeasure on it. Listen, a lot of these guys that follow me, that have been a part of that jersey design. I just don't want to throw names out there. They're aware. They're aware of. They're aware. They said that they appreciate the honesty, because honestly, I think the league rules are not going to be able to make changes, and from what I'm hearing, they can't do it for the next 5 years. But that rule could change at any point, so who knows? But look, honesty is key, and if we want it right, we get it right. Now, to go back to your initial question, the burgundy jersey, I've been saying for years, because even as a longtime fan and being in a different generation, I was good with if we updated our jerseys and kind of got more into the modern era, and especially the things that Nike are doing with these jerseys. I wanted to see a fresh new look, because it's not that I didn't like the other look. I just felt like that you can re-engage with a newer fan base, like your generation, right? Your generation, you guys would be re-engaged because you guys really focus on the way that players look on the field, and you go to that concept of, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. And I'm okay with that. Me personally, I just want you to go out and play. I don't care what you're wearing, but I wanted to see it happen, because I did feel like it could appeal to, the younger generation. And I think it would have been cool. So my initial thought was, I really did the burgundy jersey. I liked it. I thought Commanders was a little bit too big. I think the consensus from a lot of the fans is if they just shrink that a little bit, it would probably not stand out as much and be overwhelming to the jersey. But I liked it. It's still, to me, it's still clean. It's not craziness, and it serves its purpose. The black jersey, what I think a lot of people don't pay attention to on that either, is that's actually, there's a little bit of camo in that black jersey.
I didn't see that.
Yep. If you look, there's a little bit of camo. It's real light, and I do believe that's probably going to be it is their alternate, but it's probably going to be the jerseys that they wear when they do the salute to service home games. But I like that one, because that one really does show military, starting with this. Well, looking at the jersey, the back of it, it's a little strange to see the 2 lines and then the name. But again, what I like about it, it's completely different than what anyone else has in the NFL. Right. And that jersey also is representing the crest. It's representing, the DC flag, which me personally, I don't, I'm not from DC, so I don't have any ties to that, but I don't mind that jersey. And then when you go to the white jersey is different. I like that they tried to be different with the numbers. The gradient, I think, is different. But the problem with the gradient is I think that it's making the numbers too light, which in pictures, it doesn't seem to match, but it could be a completely different feel when they're on the field. And when I was at the Park and Party event Friday night, I was speaking to Joey, and Joey's like, we get that, a lot of people don't like the white jerseys, but the colors do match. So maybe they do. And like I said, the gradient just makes it look different. So that was my first initial reaction. And now I'm kind of on the standpoint, Mason, that maybe we just wait until we see it on the field, and then whatever isn't working, they're going to know. They're going to see whatever doesn't look good, they'll make adjustments to. And I know a lot of people are upset about the crest and the numbers, being the year that they won the Super Bowl, but not the Super Bowl season. I definitely think that they need to fix that, but I'm not up in arms about it. I'm not, look, that to me, I think, was a huge miss on them, and they should have known better not to do it that way, but they did. And it can be fixed if it's that big of an ordeal. So ultimately, overall, those 3 jerseys, it's just going to be different. But once we see it on the field, and again, it doesn't matter which jersey they're wearing. If we are producing a winning culture, then everyone's going to love everything about those jerseys.
Yep, I completely agree. And the helmets too. The helmets mostly, especially with the red. I saw a picture of the red helmet and the red jersey or the burgundy jersey. That looked really good. It's probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you get into the helmets part, because I kept it just to the jersey question, but when you get into the helmets, I mean, there's no question about it. The only thing I don't like about our burgundy helmet is I would have preferred a gold face mask.
Yeah,
However,
that's pretty good.
yeah,
I
however,
haven't thought about
it can still be done. So I'm not
that.
up in arms like, oh my God, you got rid of our traditional look
Hmm.
type of deal. But I at least appreciate the fact that they were giving us a different look. They gave us a matte helmet, which I, in the past, when I saw the Vikings went matte, that matte purple looked real good. And
Hmm.
so for us to do it on our end, I mean, I'm happy with that. They're when I look at all three jerseys, right? And I know I just started talking about helmets. When I look at all three jerseys, what I see and the reason why they're not all three cohesive with each other is because I see three different generations of fan input with those jerseys. I think what
That's
they
true.
did is they really wanted to please the fans and they
Yep.
wanted to give everybody a little something in one of those jerseys. So the burgundy jersey is for guys like me, right? Kind of the older generation, and they kept true to those specific colors. The white jersey, the white and black, I truly believe that they targeted your, generation,
Yeah.
because that's what you guys want. Is you wanted the
Hmm.
black uniforms, you wanted, something new and different, and you got it with that white jersey. So in that sense, I think they did a pretty good job, and
Hmm.
that black, and to get back to the helmets. So I have no issues with the burgundy helmet. If they put the gold mask on, though, I do think it would look a lot better.
Yeah.
But then the black helmet, I don't think a lot of people paid attention, but it's got the 3 stars in the back. It's got
Yeah, I
the
saw that.
numbers. They took a little bit of the Washington football team with the number concept and they put it on
Hmm.
that helmet. I feel like that's kind of what they were trying to go for. They wanted to just do the best they could to put everyone's thoughts
Hmm.
in, but make those jerseys make sense.
Yeah, and also the W on the black one, I think I saw some pictures with it not being Jonathan Allen's helmet, and it actually looks a lot better than when it was on Jonathan Allen's helmet.
Yeah.
So
So that
that's good.
W that on the front, that's caused quite a bit of a stir,
Yeah.
and you just brought up a fantastic point. It really, how it looks is going to depend on the helmet. You put on a Pro Flex helmet, that W inside is it looks good. But if you put it on a Speed Flex or even the old school, what do they call them? The VCR 4s, I think, or VSRs, I can't remember. But just the plain round helmets they've worn in the past, it's going to be weird. But again, what I appreciate is the fact that they tried something different. It's
Hmm.
different from other teams in the league.
Yeah.
Same thing when you go to the Matt Burgundy, another reason why I had said, that I feel like they were taking fan input because when all of this first happened, they showed us, the Washington football team helmets with the numbers on the side. So why would you take the stripes off? Like, what's the point of that?
Hmm.
You could have at least left the stripes on, but they didn't do that. But what they did was, with the Commanders is they came back with at least one stripe, right? And so
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
compromise because I think that there's, the fans, a lot of the younger generation fans, they're like, oh, that's great, that's dope.
Hmm.
I like the helmets without the stripes. And then you have us old guys who are like, you got to put stripes on. So there was a compromise, and one stripe was put on the helmet. And so I see everything that they did. And it took me a long time, Mason, to realize this isn't about like Keith, right? Keith, the fan. This is about an entire fan base.
Hmm.
So many different ages, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
not all
Hmm.
of us are going to agree on everything, right? We're
Right.
we're all going to have our differences. So what I
Hmm.
appreciate, even though I don't like everything that the team rolled out, I appreciate the fact and I can see that they really did use fan input to create and
Hmm.
design the helmets and the jerseys.
Yeah, they really hit most of like the check marks, even though if they didn't do like 100% of what people wanted, they at least thought about it and they at least executed it in some way, most of like the check marks that fans had,
Yeah,
which I really,
100%.
yeah, I really like. Now going back here, I've Okay, so I'm almost 16. I've watched 15 seasons of NFL football, and I've seen my team go to 3 playoffs. And it's now been 30 years since our last Super Bowl. It's what is I've only been alive for half of those 30, but what has it been like being it's having 30-year drought of just not even making it to a championship game?
Oh, it's been awful. I mean, you got to remember too. I was around your age when we won, the last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, that was back when, I went to a high school that I was the only Redskins fan. So of course I'm walking around with pride, like, I picked a winning football team. But everything after, I wouldn't say it's been miserable because we've had some up seasons through those 30 years. I mean, we've had some bright spots, but it's not always going to work out, to where you're winning a Super Bowl every single year. But all I've been asking is, can we be consistently competitive? Like, let's be consistently competitive. And we haven't been that,
Yeah.
And I feel like, back in the glory days, the old folks days, there was, I mean, you had position groups being named. I mean, it was a proud franchise, at one point. So for the 30 years, and I don't want to say that they haven't tried. I mean, there's been they've tried the free agency route, and they did that for many years. Now we're trying to build through the draft, and potentially I think it's the right way to do it. Been miserable. And then social media, when that popped on the scene, it became even more miserable because social media to me, I think, is great. Like, if you go on Facebook, got your family, your friends, negativity is going to be there, but you don't really care as long as it's nothing to do with you. And you post, personal stuff that, you have interest in. But when you get on platforms like Twitter and, some of the others like Instagram, well, I know Instagram doesn't chat as much as like it does, it doesn't handle itself the way that Twitter does. But at the end of the day, it gives a lot of people time to just get in there with the negativity. And anytime you're there, negativity is like cancer, it just spreads. And so it's tough for you guys because social media is really what you grew up into. So it's really all that you know. And so when you get on it, it's got to be 10 times worse for you guys because you've seen less than us and we haven't been very good. And then you have to go on there and see all the negativity. And it kind of makes you second guess, do I even like this sport? Do I even like this team that I'm rooting for? And so here we are, and so for me, I go into each season with hope. I hope, we can turn things around. I hope we can get a quarterback. We've tried, but we've also learned that quarterbacks don't grow on trees, right?
Yes, for sure.
You can't just go pick your elite quarterback in a draft. It doesn't work that way. Things have to work out. And we've tried both ways. We've brought in vets. We've also drafted. Unfortunately, an injury derailed, the one shot that we had in 2012. And here we are, we're chasing that quarterback dream again.
Yeah. Going back a little bit, it's to the Twitter and social media part. It's definitely so much different. I went to the Parking Party event too. It's so much different there. Like the energy and people are so excited and stuff. The new name and the new jerseys and we saw the Lombardi trophies there and everything. Then on a phone or something, it's completely different. The energy that Washington fans and just NFL fans have towards the team.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it looks like the amount of people there in total, I mean, this is just, rough, but was 2,500 fans. So obviously that 2,500 fans is only a minute fraction of the actual fan base. But what I found interesting when I was there at that event, and I actually used that opportunity because I went to this event. When I first got the ticket, it was probably like a couple days. It was when they came out. So might have been a week, I got it, but I was unclear if I was going to go, then through the week, I'm like, yes, I'm going. All right. I'm not going. Yeah, I'm going to go. Because to me, I went in impartial. I wasn't excited and I was just kind of like, whatever. I was more excited to see people that I've seen during the season than I was of the actual rebrand itself and the Parking Party. But I also helped suggest this through the ambassador program. And I know there were others that had said something as well. I said, you definitely need to do some kind of relaunch party for the fans. This is how you're going to get your fan base as best as you can to be a part of what you guys are doing. And going there, I took the opportunity to talk to even fans way older than me. I talked to a gentleman who was 78 years old, longtime Redskins fan his entire life. And the insight that he gave me about how he felt about this whole situation was actually truly impactful to me, because I'm 43 years old, right? So now I'm listening to somebody who has seen the days and the times, and, you know, is something that I could never say, you know, that I saw. And I don't want to get into, you know, what was told to me, but I thought it was super important to understand that if this gentleman here can be okay with what's going on, why can I? You know, and so I started kind of flipping my thought process, and I wouldn't say that I ran around smiling and excited, but I just kind of embraced what was happening here, because again, as fans, we're all in a unique situation. We've been rebranded twice since they took the name away from us. You know, this is the official rebrand, of course, and I think I just wanted to take everything in. I wanted to get the feel, and you're 100% correct. The energy that was there, that's where you want to be as a fan, because it's real easy to get on the socials and look, I'm probably going to sound like a hypocrite, because I can tell you right now, during the season, if the team does bad, I'm going to be the first one, not the first one, but I'll be right there getting negative as well. But that's because I'm a passionate football fan, right? I'm not trashing the brand. I'm not trashing people. I'm not trashing players, because I don't do that. But if the team as a whole doesn't play well, I'm going to be on social media doing it. So I'm kind of a hypocrite when I say this, but you definitely want to be around people that don't use all this off the field stuff as a factor to feel about how you feel about your team. If we're just paying attention to the new brand and paying attention to, you know, what's happening on the field, and you're surrounding yourself by people who have those same interests, then you're in good shape.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now I want to move here to offseason a little bit. We have a quarterback spot to fill, and there's multiple ways that we could do this. You touched earlier on about how you want a quarterback from the draft to be our future. So which quarterback from the draft do you want to start week one? Or maybe not even start week one, but be our future quarterback?
So there's two different moves that you can actually make here. The first move is if you get yourself a vet quarterback, and when I say vet, I'm talking an elite vet.
Yeah. Like
if you have to, which obviously you would have to give assets for, but I think Russell Wilson is probably the only quarterback that I would give assets for, at least for the first year, or maybe even two, depending on, you know, what they're looking for. Russell Wilson is a good choice on the vet side, because I still believe he has at least 5 to 7 years in him. And that, to me, I think, you know, you're going to know what you have, you know, coming onto this side, you know, with him. I just think he's an elite quarterback, and he's worth it, because, again, to go back to what I said, elite quarterbacks don't grow on trees. And so what you can do then is, let's say you sign him to a 5-year contract. In year 3, you know, you're not forced then and pressured to have to actually draft a quarterback this season. So that is a route that you can go, and then, you know, you can go from there, or you could go the free agent side. You know, you could pick a lower tier, like guys have been thrown out there, Jimmy G and, you know, all these other guys, Mitch Trubisky. Me personally, I think Mitch Trubisky is going to give you your best shot. At least he has playoff experience. I'm not a fan of Mitch Trubisky, but I could understand it, because if you go get Mitch Trubisky and then you save your number 11, at number 11, you're going to have your middle linebacker, which to me, I think is almost as damn near important as a quarterback, because he's the quarterback of the defense. And, you know, so Dean's out there. Don't ask me to pronounce his first name, but Dean's out there from Georgia. And I think that, I think he's an absolute beast. Now, to answer your question that you asked, just because I had to set myself up. If we had to draft a quarterback, if that's the route that we were going at number 11, Kenny Pickett would be my choice. If we drafted Malik Wilson, I wouldn't hate that either. I think no matter who we draft, though, if we did draft this season a QB, and if he had to start, I think it would be Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
But again, these quarterbacks, you never know. It's hit or miss, in the NFL. And we truly don't have the time to miss. We have to hit. I'm a firm believer that if you draft a rookie, if he's not the greatest rookie that you've ever seen in your entire life, then maybe he shouldn't be playing the first season.
Yeah.
Why not sit? But he has to sit under somebody who's going to be willing to teach and understand that that's going to be their role. And I know a lot of folks these days said, well, that's overrated, but I don't think it is, because if you look at a lot of our, these quarterbacks who have been successful, not everybody's going to be an Aaron Rodgers, but you can't tell me that he didn't learn from Brett Favre. He sat for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me he didn't learn something from Brett Favre. He had to have. So, I think that's where we need to be. I think where we've been in trouble for all these years is we're never prepared ahead of time. We're always chasing. We chase quarterbacks. Look at teams like the Cowboys, who the Cowboys are not winning Super Bowls, right? But they've been constantly competitive, at least, right? Well, look at their quarterbacks. They went from Troy Aikman to Tony Romo to Dak Prescott. So they've remained on a successful, standpoint. We haven't. And if you look at it, who have been our quarterbacks, right? So
a lot.
Right. So to me, quarterback is obviously the most important position. And if you have a smart one and a good one, they're going to make more good decisions than not. Right. Now, Taylor Heineke, loved his attitude. I love that guy. I didn't love his place, but I love the fact that he could bounce out of pockets, and he had pocket awareness. I love the fact that he had a bad boy attitude. He wanted to win.
He stayed confident.
Stayed confident. It's just, unfortunately, his skill set levels were not where they need to be in the NFL to do better. And so he's a great story, but just not somebody that I should, I would see starting here. I think he would be a great, backup quarterback. And I think that that's been a lot of people's, standpoint, with him. So there's really no right or wrong answer here. It just depends on what the team wants to do, what the team can do, and then go from there. So, but we've been throwing guys through the fire, since day one when we draft them, and it hasn't worked out. So I don't know.
Yeah. And speaking about staying prepared and getting prepared and stuff, Washington, they have the 11th pick, but they got to know. I looked this up or something. It was since 2000, only twice the first quarterback has gone past, I think, the 13th pick. So 20 years out of the last 22, a quarterback has been taken within the first 12, 11 picks. And Washington here, they've got to know that whether it be the Panthers or the Broncos, someone's going to most likely draft a quarterback before them. And I would be shocked if that didn't happen and we had everyone on the board.
Yeah, we're in a tough situation here too, because you got to remember, obviously, with this rebrand, I feel like our owner is not interested in I feel like he's going to want a flashy name to help launch this rebrand. And so that's why I do feel like if Russell Wilson wanted to come here, right, we would make that happen, but he has to want to come here. Right.
Yeah.
We would make that happen. And I think that that's truly their number one priority, is they want to bring a guy here that is going to help launch this rebrand. Because think about it. All this money that went into this rebrand and all this craziness for the past 2 years, as an owner, the last thing you want to do in your rebrand year is lose and not have players on the field that are going to excite your fan base. And obviously that turns into money, because the reason is you want your fans to be excited, so they spend their money and come to the games. I'm sure as an owner, I don't even know if I want to say owner. I just think as the personnel in Ashburn, I'm sure it doesn't feel good to work this hard to lose. Right. So I just feel like when you go back to the old Snyder way, which I'm okay with it when it comes to the quarterback, is they're going to want a guy that's going to help launch this brand and at least be more competitive than we were last season. So that way it could start turning this fan base around on their negative thoughts and feelings that they currently feel now, which they have every right to.
There's certainly a lot to do for Washington this offseason as they got to get a quarterback on offense and a middle linebacker, which is basically a quarterback on defense as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting how much money they want to spend and if they're going to get it through the offseason or through the draft. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see who will start week 1 at the quarterback spot for Washington. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. See you guys in the next one. Peace.